Gate City Bank presents the Bison Spring Game Green and Gold Preview Show.
The Bison receiving their championship rings, defeating James Madison last year down in Frisco, Texas, getting their new jewelry today. There was Ty Brooks, Eric Bachmeyer getting his ring, and of course the guy that we expect to hear his name a little bit more the rest of this month, Nick DeLuca, the linebacker with the NFL Dreams. We want to welcome you into the Fargo Dome, the Green and Gold Preview Show, sponsored by Gate City Bank. Beth Hool, Lee Timmerman, Alex Egan, Brian Sean here with you as we are going to get you set for not a game, but practice. In the words of the famous Allen Iverson.
Yes, we're talking about practice here. But first of all, we're talking about some new jewelry. Really cool to see these guys get these. I was able to get my hands on one of these. Another outstanding demonstration of another successful year of Bison football. A lot of things commemorated on this one. Really cool to see another one. I would hand it off, but
I always think the coolest thing about the ring ceremony are the guys like Nick DeLuca and Austin Kunert and Trey Dempsey and you know, Nate Tangway, those guys who get to come back one last time and pick up the hardware that they earned winning a championship. Those graduated seniors from the program.
And to hear the crowd react to hearing their name one more time, to get some more love from Bison Nation.
Because everyone else who's in uniform, they expect, they meaning the fans, expect them to go get another one.
Yeah.
And Trey Dempsey, by the way, wins the wardrobe award here tonight for what he bought out. He was, you can tell it's spring by Trey Dempsey's wardrobe today.
Yeah, it's colorful and it's bright, and if you're wanting to see, there he is. Yeah,
he is from Florida, and he's busting out the swag a little bit here tonight. But you know, just to go back on your point a little bit too, Beth, it also gives everybody one last chance, I think, to reflect on last season, really turn the page from 2017 to 2018. And I think that goes for us. You know, we're on this wild ride every week for 4 months. And then it ends, and just like that, and you really don't have a chance to think about it until it's over. So it's really cool to look back at what some of these guys have accomplished in their career and some of the up-and-comers that we're going to see tonight.
We've got a very fun-filled show for you tonight as we will show you some of the action that's going to be going on. They're going to go through some drills during this portion of but it's not, again, a spring game, but a spring practice because of the injuries that the Bison had entering this spring ball. We're not going to actually, they don't actually have enough bodies to play a spring game.
Well, and the spring drills or the spring practices aren't for the guys that you at home already know. They're for the guys who are going to back them up and then come a little bit later. So we'll have an opportunity to look at some redshirt freshman quarterback, a slew of young tight ends who are going to be outstanding. Positions like that, the defensive line has some young kids on it. We'll talk a lot about that, but that's what the spring is about. It's about those guys.
Also, throughout the course of the show, we'll be hearing from some of the guys that we talked to throughout the course of the spring football, and we also have a very fun sit-down that we did with Easton Stick as he comes back for his final season with the Bison. That's hard to believe that he is a senior this year in spring football. Still plenty more to come. We will be right back here as we will get the spring game going. The Green and Gold Preview Show, sponsored by Gate City Bank. Welcome back inside the Fargo Dome. The Bison's Green and Gold Preview, sponsored by Gate City Bank, is LT. Brian, new this year at the Fargo Dome. If you're a fan that wants to come to the game, you're going to have to maybe set down the beverages a little earlier in the parking lot because there's a new security feature that the Fargo Dome has this year. Beth Hool caught up with Rob Sobolik from the Fargo Dome to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, guys, we're joined by Rob Sobolik out here talking a little bit about the security measures you guys have implemented here at the Fargo Dome this year.
Yep, absolutely. You know, they're trying them out tonight, getting a little taste of what they're going to go through once football season kicks off this fall with the walkthrough metal detectors. It's one of those, just another protective measure taking place at venues. Obviously, the professional venues have done it. It's filtering into the secondary markets, different areas. It's just time to do it for extra security precautions given the terrible things that are going on around the world and country these days.
Are there any added limitations from anybody? Are they not allowed to bring anything else, anything new in?
Right. The prohibited item list still is the same. You can't bring in guns, you can't bring in weapons, different things such as that. We're going to be a little bit more strict on the size of bag. It's basically a 13-inch by 13-inch bag. One of the important things to remember is you, as the patron coming in, have control over how quickly you're going to go through there. If you have your car keys, if it's a big thing of car keys, that's probably going to come out. But you can leave, your cell phone will come out, but you can leave your belt on. You're not taking off shoes, so you're not getting on an airplane. It's just it's an extra check to go through there. We really don't like bags here, so we have an express line set up. So if you don't have a bag, you just go right through. We encourage you to have clear bags. A lot of professional buildings say, no, you can't. You can only bring in a clear bag. We're not going that route. We highly recommend it to get in quicker, but we know that there's diaper bags. We know that there's purses, different things that are needed. But so when you're coming in, just take out your cell phone, take out your camera if you have that, something else, and you're good to go.
All right, well, thanks so much. Looks like it'll be another fun year of Bison football kicking off here at the spring game. Guys, we'll send it back down to you.
All right, thank you very much, Beth. Certainly some things to be aware of as you come to the Fargo Dome next year to hopefully see Bison quarterback Easton Stick. Now, I had the opportunity to sit down with Easton earlier this spring, and we had a very fun conversation. We talked a lot about who he is as a person as he enters his senior season. Here's a little taste of our talk.
Whenever you walk off the field, be it at the Fargo Dome, your final time as a senior, or hopefully again down at Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas, what do you want people to remember Easton Stick, Bison quarterback, as?
Yeah, hopefully just a guy that they know that valued the game and valued the people he was around. Someone that brought their stuff every single day and wanted to work as hard as I could, and just value relationships. We talk about having a genuine appreciation, for everybody in the program, and I try to do that, and I hope that's something that I think our whole senior class is trying to do, and what our program tries to do. And so hopefully it's that, someone that worked hard and really just valued the people around him.
We'll have my entire conversation with Easton Stick at the end of our broadcast here tonight. LT, you've been around Easton enough to know the Bison have something special here.
They do. The quarterback is the most critical position in football. That's not a big secret. But if you don't have a guy playing that critical position that his teammates respect, you don't have a team that's going to win. You have to have that guy. Easton Stick is that guy.
And you talk about the pressure, too, that this young man was put on. I mean, look whose shoes he had to fill coming in. I mean, he's forced into the game as a redshirt freshman after the team just lost a game, and all he does is win every game that he starts. That includes 3 playoff games as a redshirt freshman. And he continues to progress. He's 34-3 as a starter. Oh, yeah, and he's also in graduate school right now as well, working on his MBA.
We won't see much of Easton Stick throwing the football. They've kept him limited throughout this entire spring, but he is, rest assured, he will be the guy come the fall for the Bison in the football team. The reason why Easton isn't playing is because, well, he was injured, and there's a few guys that have been injured as well. Beth Houle catches us up with this Sanford Athletic injury report.
Hey guys, here for a Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine injury report, joined by Jason Balvich today. Joining us to talk a little bit about ACL injuries. It's a hot topic always, especially for Bison football, given how many they had this past season. Now, those guys have gone through surgery. They've been through in the rehab process. Where typically are you at this point after an ACL tear in the August, early September timeframe?
I would say, if you had an injury early August, September, you're looking at, you're in your strengthening program right now, usually getting back to some normal activities. That 6 to 12 month is kind of that normal recovery, depending on what other specific things you had going on inside the knee besides the ACL. There could be meniscal injuries, chondral issues that you could be dealing with that would have set you back some in your recovery. So,
for a football player like a Bison athlete, or for anybody who might be active themselves, what are some things to watch out for, some things to maybe listen to with your body that might tell you, maybe I need to call my doctor?
I would say, you want to remain active, you want to keep your weight down, you want to keep your strength up, so that's depending on the individual. Could be walking, biking, anywhere from running, depending on what kind of symptoms are you having, or if you're having sharp pain, swelling, those type of things would be something that you would go see somebody for. So
now everybody's big concern with Bison football players, will they be ready to go come August again? How typical is it to be able to be ready to go a year later after an ACL tear?
You know, ACL injury is a big injury to the knee. The goal is to get you back playing around that year mark. Most of the kids are back playing, depending on, like you said, specifics at other things that could be going on inside the knee. You know, cartilage issues are always big. You know, those are always, can you get back to normal activities? You don't really know until, I guess, you start doing those things. And that's where the athletic trainers come in and the sports rehab program stuff comes in for those guys. So.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Jason. We really appreciate it. Guys, that's been another Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report.
Thank you very much, Beth. Let's take a look at some of the guys who suffered some of those ACL injuries last year. Jackson Brown in the defensive backfield. Dylan Radins, he played 15 plays and was injured against Mississippi Valley State last year with an ACL injury. Greg Menard didn't even get on the football field last year. He was hurt early in fall camp. Dan Marlette was one of the rotating middle linebackers that the Bison had with his ACL injury, and Damaris Purifoy as well in the running back core. That was a group that was tested all season long with injuries, actually having to use Seth Wilson's red shirt. So hopefully the Bison can avoid any more of those ACL injuries as they get through this spring practice and then into fall camp. They are warming up on the field behind me. When we come back, we will have some football being played here at the Fargo Dome as the Bison spring game Green and Gold preview, sponsored by Gate City Bank Show, rolls on. Welcome back inside the Fargo Dome as we are going to get set for some football action here at the Green and Gold Spring Preview Show, sponsored by Gate City Bank. I don't know if you could hear that. That is the horn. We're not actually using a clock today. We're not keeping track of any points or anything, but we will be.
But that does mean we're getting close to some football action here. They've been warming up after the ring ceremony. Wanted to spend a little time talking about who we're excited about seeing. A lot of the hype, and partly in our doing, has been about these young quarterbacks, about the backup quarterbacks. But a group that I'm really excited to see compete today is that tight end fullback group, because they have been so fun to watch at practice.
Well, and they lose guys like Jeff Ilias and Connor Wentz. Those guys were mainstays for this tight end core last year. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys, how that rest of that group fills into the roles that Jeff and Connor had filled.
That's right, and we're getting underway now, so we'll send it back up to Brian and Lee.
All right, thanks so much, Beth and Alex. Brian Sean, Lee Timmerman with you as we start practice, I guess, officially here with just some, real basic stuff, LT. And I talked to a couple of the offensive linemen about how this was going to go, and pretty much it's just going to be two-man pressures, but the line doesn't know where those pressures are coming from. So it's just one of those things that situationally trying to put guys and see how they react in those situations.
But the defensive linemen, no matter what, they want to get to the quarterback. They won't knock him down, but there's Stanley Jones. You just saw him run by.
And Holden Hodgkiss certainly won't have that much time in a regular game, but it gives an opportunity for the young redshirt freshman out of Florida to at least get some reps. And he and Noah Sanders, the two redshirt freshmen we're going to see here tonight.
But the young kid you saw just catch that ball right there, that's, Freeman. And Dallas has come a long way. Coach Hedberg has said he's running better routes. He's playing much faster. He is a guy in a relatively thin position group for the Bison who I think they're going to count on right there, 83.
You also notice that in gold, number 29, Eric Bachmeyer, is a defensive back, but is playing wide receiver due to some injuries. And there's a guy that really exploded on the scene last season. His athleticism, and look at Jabril Cox, and there's not much he can't do. He's been a difference maker for North Dakota State, especially in the second half of last season.
The way he roams and comes back and picks this, does that remind you of anything that happened last year, maybe in a snowstorm in a critical part of a game sometime?
At Illinois State, that was a wild scene where we had rain and sleet and snow and all sorts of things going on, and Cox certainly made one of the biggest plays of that game in a Bison victory.
Here's again, he was coming in on a little thud. Again, no one's going to knock anybody down. They'll just get there, kind of touch him just like you would in a normal practice. You don't make the big hits. But Jabril Cox he's a kid that is just his upside. I mean, he's so good already, but he hasn't even touched his upside yet. And one of the things I think that I like that Coach Entz is doing with him is they're moving him around. He's playing some inside during the spring. The Bison defense is trying to build some versatility within it, and we'll touch on that a little bit more as the evening goes on.
Noah Sanders getting his first snap in at quarterback.
There would have been another sack.
And he will just throw it away that time, getting pressured by Aaron Mercadal. I see Seth Wilson, another freshman that really bursted onto the scene, was not expected to play. And then the Bison really had to have him after a rash of injuries at that position. And when you look at that position group, LT, that may be the deepest position group next to tight end.
Well, we know the two, the Lance and the Bruce. Those two are fantastic. You know, Ty Brooks is coming back. Seth Wilson, you mentioned him. Dimitri Williams has been taking some reps at running back. So a deep position has gotten so much deeper. And I know I've heard and talked with the offense and how well that Bruce Anderson is improving and what he's doing and the versatility that he shows. So you're right, the defense, and there's another sack.
It was actually Justice Kelly, who's a walk-on from defensive end. And yeah, we talked a little bit about Bruce Anderson, and even Matt Entz, the defensive coordinator, was really singing his praises on the other side of the ball. And now he's healthy as a running back, coming back into the spring, going into next season.
It just made me a better football player and a better leader, you know. With that happened, I had to step up and increase my role. So it just allowed me to become a more vocal and lead by example kind of guy.
Of course, Bruce talking about after the injury to Lance Dunn, how his role increased and he embraced it and did very well with it.
And even Courtney Messingham mentioning to us this week, LT, about how much better Bruce got, in particular as a zone block runner. That was a big part of Anderson, was kind of getting used to that scheme outside of just power. He's become a really good zone runner.
And zone, you don't really know exactly where the ball's going to go. The play develops in front of you, and so Anderson is becoming more of a one-cut crease guy. And with that zone blocking scheme that Coach Mess likes, he's going to thrive in it. He'll be better next year than he was, and he was good last year.
Well, there you see Josh Babbitts, one of those tight ends who was a really good volleyball player in high school, came here from Barrington, Illinois, and you can see the frame on that young man and the athleticism. He's put on 20 pounds. Also really good hands, and Tyler Roll just has a room full of guys that he can throw the ball to.
It's amazing. These guys are big, they're strong, they're athletic, and a lot of them can move in space. Babbitts is one of them, but the tight end group, tight end / fullback group, it's something that no one else in the country has. That much depth, that much talent. And there's a look at Josh Babbitts. But just to give you an example of the tight end group and how we're seeing Babbitts, but we can name kids like Avery and Mauk and Gindorf, Babbitts, of course, Elfson, and that's not even. There's 5 guys right there, and we didn't even talk about about Jensen and Anderson, the 2 kids who are coming back that played a lot. So that is a deep position group.
It's Desmond Kane, who came in as a wide receiver, and then the end of last season was actually moved more to defensive back just for depth purposes with all the injuries at corner, and that's what he was recruited as a high school player out of Florida, but of course back here a wide receiver now, working himself in, and certainly the coaching staff hoping he can take the next step forward. They need guys, as you mentioned, LT, to step up at wide receiver.
They really do. I mean, Darius Shepard's coming back as we take a look at the pass here from Hotchkiss out into the flat to Kane, but they need guys like Des Kane to kind of step up. Christian Watson is a young kid who we won't see today, but they want to do things like that. Get downfield, try to get open, and he'll be a guy that they try to rely on a lot.
Saw Marquise Bridges in coverage on the deep ball that time to Andy Voyen, and Bridges, a guy that really played a critical need for North Dakota State late in the season with all the injuries as well, including a big interception in the national championship game against James Madison.
But Bridges becoming, the dominant player that he's going to be at corner, that allowed the Bison to take, a kid who has played and started at corner for a couple of years, move him to free safety, play him at nickel. Of course, I'm talking about Winbush. So that's one of the things where the Bison are building some versatility in their defense. They're taking kids and moving those guys around. And, and Wimbush embraces the move a little bit. He came in as a free safety, and he's get the opportunity to go back there and maybe be the guy taking over the role for Trey Dempsey.
Let's talk to Jalen Wimbush about the depth at defensive back right now.
no matter if I don't get the starting spot or not, I know I trust the guy in front of me to do their job, and I have the utmost respect for each and every one of them.
And Wimbush, again, as you mentioned, LT, has been the slot guy, a safety, a corner, and nice to have a versatility for a guy like that that can play a number of different positions.
Yeah, and that goes back to one of the things that, you know, every program in the country says in the spring we're trying to build depth. Well, the Bison are like that too, but the way it was kind of explained to me a little bit by Coach Klanderman, he said we are trying to build diversity. We're taking our best athletes and playing them in multiple positions. You know, we've seen Jabril Cox do that. We know Levi Jordan can do that. He knows all of the linebacker positions. Another kid, an example of that, is Stanley Jones has been 100% the defensive end. Well, this spring, Stanley Jones is taking some reps at defensive tackle. Will he play there? I don't know. The Bison don't know, but if he has to, he'll be able to. So that's how they're building diversity within that defense.
See Brooks and Wilson in the backfield, and that could be a really dangerous combo, especially in passing downs. Two guys that can catch the ball pretty electric in space. Peter Isaias making that.
Nodak Insurance Company replay. Saunders dropping back, getting rid of the ball on time. That's a big thing for a quarterback at the top of the drop. If he can have his receiver spotted and get that pass off on time, the whole offense moves much, much better.
And there's a look at Sanders, and that's a guy that passed up a scholarship offer at Montana State to walk on here out of the Twin Cities, Apple Valley High School. You saw streaking downfield that time, number 44, Cody Mauk out of Hankinson, who has put on 50 pounds in about 9 months. Unbelievable how, and he doesn't look like he's put it on his midsection, LT. He's got some tree trunks for legs, and a guy that might play that ogre position, ogre package like Bryce Messer did a couple of years ago. Let's take a break here on the KVOI KFYR Bison Network. A proceed break here on the Bison Spring Game Green and Gold Preview.
Back from our proceed game break as the Bison just get done wrapping up a few field goals there. Special teams, one of the areas that the Bison will need to take a look at this year. Is gone is Jackson Kuntz as the punter, and James
lot
Fisher.
Of names. Yeah. Holders, long snappers, really everybody except for Cam Peterson at the kicking game. A lot of names to fill in. They've tried a lot of guys out, gotten a lot of different looks.
All right, let's get back up top to Brian Shawn and Lee Timmerman. More game action happening here in the Green and Gold Spring Game.
All right, thank you, Beth and Alex, and more situational scrimmage type stuff here now in the red zone, LT, just to give these quarterbacks some looks.
Also to give you know, the defense a look. So Matt Entz says that third down and red zone are the two most important things that the Bison defense has been emphasizing and working on here this spring, and those are the situational things that you certainly want to be comfortable with doing, and it is a top priority for Matt Entz and his defense.
Caleb Butler, one of the first in the backfield that time, and Matt telling us that Caleb probably has had 50 sacks in the spring. I mean, he's just been all over the field, lining up inside and outside. He's really been unblockable.
That defensive line is going to be so deep, and if everyone stays healthy, it's the best in the country.
Shepard making the reception, and Darius Shepard has always been playing through something. Has been really an Iron Man for North Dakota State. Really hard to believe that this guy's already a senior, LT.
It doesn't seem like it. It seems like his career is flown by. He's become dependable. He's the #1 returning guy on that thin wide receiver crew that we've talked about, and boy, Shepard has made some big plays. Of course, I think immediately of some of those catches when Wentz was throwing the ball for those touchdowns in critical situations, and trusting him as a young athlete.
There's Hotchkiss running in for what probably would have been close to a touchdown, maybe marked down at the 1 yard line. And that is something that Courtney Messingham said he's been telling his quarterbacks to do a lot. We cannot afford to turn the football over. So if you need to just put it down and run, do it, because we'd rather have that and pick up 3 yards over making a bad decision.
It's been an issue with both of these young kids this spring. I mean, you know, throw it away if you're covered. That's not necessarily a bad play. And when I talked with Coach Hedberg, he said the same thing. You know, just don't lose it. Don't force it. Throw it away if you have to.
Here's a look at Seth Wilson.
You talk about kids with upside.
Wow.
There's one.
And what I couldn't believe, LT, when he came in and had to play because of necessity, is how polished he was as a freshman. I mean, it looked like he'd been out there all season long.
And he wasn't. You know, he had his 2 days through fall camp. Little zone read from the quarterback, another nice RPO. But the most impressive thing from Wilson, if we just want to touch on him, is he had 7 weeks of running scout. He was running somebody else's plays, and then the red shirt gets pulled, and now he has to kind of relearn the Bison offense and know that he needs to contribute, and he did. He's been, I guess, has a little touch of his shoulder here this spring, nothing real bad, but his pass blocking is one thing that needs to improve and has so far. So his pass pro is pretty good. And Coach Mess said we got to be careful to remember that this kid
intercepted by Michael Tutsi, who is another young man the Bison coaching staff is really high on. Comes out of a strong high school program in Indianapolis, and the Bison were able to get him pretty late in the recruiting process, and this is a winner. He's a coach's kid, and you can tell by the way he kind of attacks the process that he's got a pretty bright future in the backfield at NDSU.
In a word, he's going to be exceptional. I think he's got that much potential, that much skill, understands the game. He's a couple of years from being outstanding, but he's going to play in the mix next year.
Adam Cofield, one of those running backs we haven't talked about. Another guy that was kind of banged up, LT, did not get an opportunity to get on the field. Only played in 6 games, 163 yards and a touchdown.
You know, one of the things for Cofield that's been tough is that he's trying to play the same position that Bruce Anderson and Lance Dunn play. When you have those two guys in front of you, as Coach Bescam said, he's kind of been in that, when is it going to be my turn? Well, you got to be ready for your turn.
So Robbie Grimsley coming up to make a play there on Hotchkiss on the quarterback keeper, and the offensive line is going to be good, LT. A few guys have been sitting out. One of them standing right in front of us, Colin Connor. And I talked to Connor a little bit last week about how he's doing, and he had both hips worked on. Said he had pretty bad hip impingements is what he was calling. So he said, I just feel so much better. He really had to battle through some things at the end of last year, but never missed a start for North Dakota State.
Of course, Radens has been doing individual workouts, not the full stuff here in the spring. He played 15 plays before injuring an ACL. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but you know, so he's going to be back healthy. That will more than likely move Connor from left tackle into left guard, so he's healthy now. And the one kid, when you talk about the offensive line and in the spring that everybody says has been outstanding, number 67.
Cordell Volson.
Volson, he's out there right now and he's playing left tackle. He's going to have to learn a little bit of all these positions. No, he's at, they're at the field goal. That's why they're running some specialties. But Cordell Volson has been impressive so far this spring, and I think he is playing his way into that first 5.
He told me right before we came up here that he ate 14 eggs this morning. He said he normally eats a dozen every single morning. A dozen eggs.
Well, when you're 310 pounds and you need that protein to keep you there, but yeah, 14 eggs.
14 eggs.
Did he make just one big omelet, or did he say how he made them?
You know, I was talking to Luke Bacon too about when the offensive linemen come in after runs into the dining center to eat, and I'm like, they must just run for the hills when you guys come in there. And he said, yeah, we just grab a couple of big bowls of eggs and put them on the table and we take care of them. Look at Cam Peterson. Some big field goals in his career. Garrett Wegner trying out holding. We've seen James Hendricks try out holding, long snapping, holding, all those things still have to be said.
But that goes back to one of my points I've been saying, just talking with people, and they're asking me how the Bison are going to be next year, and I'm like, they're going to be really, really good. And I'll use this as an example of why. Because what are they trying to replace this spring? What is the big question mark? Well, when you're getting to long snapper and punter and maybe some depth at wide receiver, you know, that's an indication of how good I think this team's going to be. You just look up and down the interstate, you know. South Dakota State's got to replace Goddard and Winnipeg. You know, go down to Vermilion. They have to replace Strevler. Those are major, major question marks. And in my mind, the Bison's question marks are long snapper. You're doing pretty good. You're setting pretty good.
Inside handoff that time to Austin Avery, one of those tight end slash fullback H-back players that can do a lot of different things in North Dakota State's offense.
Of the young tight end slash fullback group, he's part of that group that's a little bit more of a physical type of a player. And I know Coach Klanderman, when I was talking with him this week, I said, give me some ideas about how the offense is doing, or what are some of your observations? And he called the tight end group very special.
See Jackson Brown coming up there to bump Seth Wilson. And Brown, a guy, again, had to deal with an injury last year, a PCL that just took a long time to heal. Really didn't get an opportunity defensively, but was very important for North Dakota State on special teams. Talked to Jackson last Saturday, said, I'm up to 210 pounds. I'm feeling good, and he's a guy that they're trying to also work in a couple different positions to get him some experience.
Yeah, he's been taking some reps this spring at linebacker, again trying to build off that theme of versatility. So Jackson Brown might slide down, much like Chris Board did. He's kind of in that same vein, so that's real important. And they're hoping that he can, you said 205, 210, they're hoping he can get maybe to 215 to be body size a little more comfortable in that linebacker spot.
Cofield getting that last run up the middle. And James Hendricks, well, that guy we talked about.
Jimmy Football.
Does everything you can think of and more. You see Logan McCormick, one of the young defensive ends that played as a true freshman, getting in on that play.
But let's keep talking about James a little bit. Where's number 6? It's unheard of, really, in nowadays of the specialties of what he's doing. You know, he's holding, we talked about that. He's playing safety. We've seen him have interceptions. He is still taking reps at quarterback. And the main thing about what Hendricks does is the fact that he's able to play on both sides of the ball and keep the terminology from the offense and what they call the plays on the defense separate. So his skill set mind-wise for football is outstanding.
In this day and age, hard to believe he can do that. Easton Stick, the starting quarterback, also pretty impressed with Mr. Hendricks.
It's awesome having both perspectives, I think, for him to continue to learn, and for me too, honestly. I pick his brain all the time about stuff that they're doing maybe that week and stuff that he sees in different perspectives. So, you know, James exemplifies Bison pride, absolutely.
And had something happened to Stick last year, he was the guy that was going in, LT. He was the backup quarterback as much as he was playing safety and out there doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, he would have been the guy.
His pass is incomplete, intended for number 82, Ben Ellison.
And in his limited time in that offensive role, you know, Coach Hedberg talked about how he commands the huddle. Even though he's not in it much, the quarterback, he said he commands the huddle. And the main reason for that is his teammates respect him in his ability to play all these different positions. And they know that if he must get called on to play quarterback, he's going to do it well. And Coach Klanderman said flat out, James Hendricks is a starting quarterback on a bunch of teams in the Missouri Valley Conference if he would have gone that role. His skill set is of that nature.
Lance Dunn getting the carry there. Really good to see Lance back running at full speed. Gutted it out in the national championship game. Was certainly not 100%. But when Lance initially hurt his hip, he was at a point where he was worried he may not be able to play football ever again. It was that kind of a severe thing in the hip. and it has bounced back. It's doing well, and he looks like the old Lance to me out there.
Flag on the play and procedure against the offense.
Okay, thanks.
It's Easton Stick continuing.
There's a look at Lance. He was so happy, wasn't he, down in Frisco, knowing he was going to get back out there and getting a chance to play and help his team win a national championship.
Had a couple of big runs in that game. North Dakota State really needed him.
Touchdown.
And there is a look at Noah Gindorf. And the Bison had to fight off a late offer from the University of Minnesota to keep Gindorf out of Crosby, Minnesota. A very talented young man. And he knows it's going to be a challenge replacing some of those tight ends. He's got to come in and try to do that.
There's a little bit of pressure. I mean, definitely expectations are high for us to come in and fill those guys' roles, but we still have great senior leaders like Nate Jensen, Ben Elfson, who are really good example for us. And I guess, you know, us young guys, we just have to step up and do what we can and learn the playbook as fast as possible.
Moving on to some punts, ladies and gentlemen.
Gindorf was a guy that played quarterback in high school, too, and is making a position switch. Let's throw it to a Proceed commercial game break. We'll be back with more here at Gate City Bank Field at the Fargo Dome after this. Back from the Proceed game break here at the Fargo Dome for the annual North Dakota State Green and Gold game preview here tonight on this Friday evening. And pleased to be joined by a young man that played a lot of football here at North Dakota State and is looking forward to next weekend for the NFL draft, and that is former middle linebacker Nick DeLuca. Nick, thanks for the time, and we appreciate you joining us. And I'm sure for you, this kind of closes the book, getting your championship ring one last time with the guys, and then it's time to move on to the next level of life.
Yeah, the next chapter. No, it's a little surreal, you know, kind of experiencing things from the fan point of view, and you know, it's awesome to be back with the guys, and you know, obviously we're in a fortunate situation to get our rings again, so it's a great day. Definitely.
Thoughts about just the way it went. At what point did you know that you went from hoping to play to knowing I'm going to play to they have to have me play well?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just over the course of my career, I think it was towards the end, and you know, you really start feeling things out and seeing where you're at and developing as a player. And you know, it was always a dream and a hope for me, but you know, just excited that I'm in that opportunity.
You made a bunch of fans, not just you, but you know, Easton and whatever, from your home area, if you want to, you know, take a circle around that Omaha area, and you know, can you imagine how many people who were born and bred with red are now green and gold?
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy to think about. You know, we got a little pipeline coming from Omaha now, so you know, it's definitely exciting to have a good following from back home, and you know, we're getting some jerseys in there in Shields, so it's pretty neat.
Your position group, obviously, Nick, you leave behind some pretty big shoes to fill, but there are some guys that I think are really looking forward to having big seasons. Dan Marlette had his season cut short, much like you did a couple of years ago as well. Jabril Cox certainly made strides. I'm guessing you got to be pretty excited where you're leaving the linebacking core here.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a great position. You know, Coach Hentz is going to get them right. I mean, like you said, you know, Dan, Jabril, Levi, all these guys. We got a lot of playmakers and some leaders that are going to keep developing the young guys. So they're in good hands, and I'm excited to see how this season plays out for them.
Well, Coach Metz talked about one of the things that he wants to do, and Brian and I have talked about building some diversity within it, and you were going to do that too, I guess, until injuries, whatever, but moving positions. How important is it to know, you know, not only what you have to do at Mike, but unless you have to go play Will, or, you know, Jabril's moving around, or Levi knows all three spots. How critical is that within your position group?
Oh, it's huge. I think it's extremely valuable because, you know, the defense is like a puzzle, and you know, you're constantly, there's moving parts to it, and you need to know where everybody's going to fit. So, you know, just having that understanding of where the other guys are going to be, and, you know, where you would have to be if you were in that position, I think just gives you that much more of a, you know, a sense of comfort, and where gives you that knowledge of where you need to be, so, and make those plays.
And football is different than it was back when you just stay in a 4-3 and you'd have three linebackers. What did Coach Hentz told us? That about 80% of the time, you were not facing a 21 personnel. It was a 12 or it was something different. So you had to be versatile as a linebacker. Do you not in the way the offenses are run nowadays?
Definitely, and I think the game is going to continue to evolve and spread it out. We're one of the few teams that still pounds the rock like they're doing right now, and I think that's valuable for us on offense. But defensively, we see all kinds of stuff. They're trying to spread it out. There's motions and all kinds of stuff. So it's becoming a different game, and you got to evolve for it as a defense.
You had a chance to finally reflect for a little bit. You get so caught up in the football machine where you never really get time off or downtime. It's always the next thing, because football is really 365 days a year. Now that your career is over, you've been able to take a couple of months. I know you've been busy doing different things with the Senior Bowl and everything else, but just talk about, Nick, trying to put your career into perspective now that you have time to think about it.
Yeah, and I think that's something I'll continue to do here because I'm still in that football mode, and I'm still trying to get to the next level, and I'm excited for that. But yeah, obviously the things that we accomplished at NDSU were awesome, and over my career, made a lot of great memories and a lot of great friends over the course of the year. So, I'm just excited and was so fortunate to be in such good hands, and couldn't ask for a better place to play college football for 5 years, without a doubt.
What should fans in Minnesota and all across North Dakota listening to us and watching now, what should they know about the process of trying to become an NFL player?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes with opportunity, and I'm like I said, I'm extremely thankful for the program that I came to and was a part of, and really put me in the position to move forward to the next level. But it takes a lot, and I mean, focus and dedication, just like any of these guys that are out here grinding every day. But you just try to find things that can separate you and take you to the next level. And I've been a firm believer in the details, and that's something I always pride myself on moving forward.
Were there things that you learned from Wentz or Emmanuel or people who have immediately gone through that process that maybe helped you get ready for being grilled by NFL executives and seeing doctors and all the things that you've had to do?
Yeah, I mean, they were great resources. Any of those guys that I talked to, were happy to help and, fill me in on what I need to know and stuff like that. But also being at the agency that I was at, they really were hands-on and helped me out with all that kind of stuff too. So credit to them as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, Nick. We wish you the best wishes in the future. We'll all be keeping our eyes peeled to find out where you end up, where your opportunity is going to come. But it's been a real joy to cover you the last 4 or 5 years we've had you here, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah,
and you don't get to control your future at all. How weird is that?
Yeah,
good luck.
It's in someone else's hands right now, so we'll see what happens.
All right, thank you.
Best wishes, Nick. Thank you. Nick DeLuca joining us here. We certainly appreciate the time. The fun part of our job is we get to see these guys play, and then we get to see them move on, LT, and that's also kind of the bittersweet part. These guys, last time you see them, they move on to the next joy of life, and the more you see these guys, the older we get, the older they get.
Yeah, how true. I still go back to Coach Hedberg and I were talking a little bit about trying to put time in perspective. You go back to 2014 when Carson Wentz was coming into his first season as the starter here, and it's a similar situation to where, like, Cole Davis and Derek McGinnis are in spots right now where Sanders and Hodgkiss are trying to become, that next guy or be in line to be the next guy at quarterback. And that's when Easton Stick was coming off of, his redshirt freshman, season. So that quarterback group then is similar to kind of what's happening now. And you're right, we do age fast.
Meanwhile, Chris Klieman got a contract extension just a couple of days ago, signed through the 2023 season. And you have to say that is a well-deserved honor for that guy who is 54-6 as a head coach at NDSU. Not bad, a 900 winning percentage.
That's really good.
I think the more impressive part of that too, LT, is how many coaches he's been able to retain here for such a long period of time. Really almost unheard of, especially at the FCS level.
And when Beth went out and talked with Matt Larson, the athletic director, earlier this week about that situation, I know Matt was saying that Coach Klieman will be the first to tell you, take care of my assistant coaches. And most good head coaches, that's what they'll do, because they know they can't do it by themselves. A good head coach is not a good head coach without the solid assistants. And in the and in the ever-evolving, the doors revolving world of coaching, the fact that as many guys have stayed put in their jobs here is another testament to what the Bison football program is doing. And, of course, winning will help glue that situation together as well.
Yeah, just 2 assistant coaches have left. Tim Polasek taking off to go to Iowa as the offensive line coach, and then Jamar Cain to Fresno State, but that's it in the last 4 years.
I mean, that's unheard of. You look at how many head coaches have come and gone across the country in the last 4 years, and now we're talking just assistant coaches staying put. But again, that's what the Bison have built. It's one of the reasons the NDSU program is as good as it is. That was a tremendous punt.
Yeah,
too.
Garrett Wegner out of Lodi, Wisconsin, a guy that right now is the only punter on the team. The Bison are bringing another one in, but that's a critical part of the game, LT. We saw that on the role that played in the national championship game. Field position really kept James Madison in that football game.
There's Coach Messingham, the offensive coordinator. He has settled in here too, because when Coach Polasek went to Iowa, it was Coach Mess that came here to NDSU to call the plays and take over that critical role.
Yeah, Lance Dunn, one of those Waterloo guys. Coach Messingham, one of those Waterloo guys. Here's what Lance thinks about his offensive coordinator.
Coach Messingham, he does a great job with us in meetings, and I feel like he's really raised my football IQ a lot better, and even not just me, just all the guys. The way he teaches things, he makes sure he breaks everything down, and he's just a great teacher and a great person.
I liked one of the stories that Mess was telling us about just here in the spring, and trying to use the versatility of the tight end group. He said they came out in 23 personnel, so that's 2 running backs and 3 tight ends, and then they ran the spread off of that just to try to mess with Coach Entz and his defense to see how they would do it, how they would defense that situation. So that's one of those deals. It's a little bit of an inside joke, but it is also an indication of the versatility that Coach Messingham can have with some of the players on the offensive side.
Dan Marlette will be, if healthy, the inside Mike linebacker as a starter for North Dakota State going into the fall. But 2 guys that are training in that position. One has been here, Bo Pauly. The other, Jackson Hankey, a young man that's really made an impression as a redshirt freshman. We talked to Matt Entz about him, and he said, well, he came in, he was not in shape last summer. And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, he was in baseball shape. He was playing baseball all summer. So they didn't really know what he was going to be able to do until about 3 or 4 months into practices. But once they got that, they knew he was going to be special.
And the biggest thing about Jackson Hankey, he's from Park River, North Dakota guy, is that I've been told by multiple coaches, he understands football. He knows it. He's smart. He's vocal. He has the qualities that you need out of a middle linebacker. And now we asked Jackson about what his personal goals are here with the Bison.
I just want to get better every single day, and I can feel that kind of coming along, but my redshirt year is over, so I'm looking for a way to contribute next fall if I can. So right now I'm trying to get better every single day and just take it as it goes.
There's a look at Hankey, up to 223 pounds. Amazing how many of those guys Chris Klein and Randy Hegberg have been able to find in North Dakota. Just these small town kids that have been able to come in and really be impact players year after year after year.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, one of the reasons you would say, Coach Hedberg is that the Bison coaching staff kind of splits the country up, so to speak, in regions, and somebody is in charge of recruiting a particular region. And Coach Hedberg from Parshall is the North Dakota, the main recruiter for the state of North Dakota.
Here's a look at Freeman.
So like in the Bison, there's Coach Hedberg, but like in the Bison bye week, if you think back heading into the playoffs, NDSU got the first round bye. So that coaching staff immediately got in planes and in cars and in everything to go out and recruit their respective areas.
Nodak Mutual Insurance replay. Taking a look at that end around jet sweep. North Dakota State has very successfully installed and run the last few years. One thing that Cordy Messingham told us, better, what do you want to change? And he said, I want to find a way to spread things out to get our athletes in space and take advantage of mismatches, because we have to be able to beat man coverage one way or another. That's going to be a huge key for us this coming season.
Here comes Shepard to the near side. And the main reason for that, Brian, is it's no secret the Bison run the football. They're one of the best running teams in the entire country. So defenses are geared to stop the run. So when you go to a passing attack, and the reason in man-to-man is so important is because those wide receivers are going to be in man coverage because an extra guy is maybe down in the box trying to stop the running game. So that's why the receivers have to win those one-on-one battles, those man-to-man situations on the outside.
There's Dunn again.
Lance Dunn, the ball carrier.
I think that was Caleb Butler in there again, disrupting things.
When you think about,
he's bordering on unblockable.
Well, you think about when Greg Menard gets healthy again, and he should be healthy going into summer drills. That's kind of been his goal, is to make sure he's full go getting ready in the summer workouts. But Greg Menard, Stanley Jones, Derek Tuska, Caleb Butler, you have 4 defensive ends. You're not even talking about some of the other guys they have, like the Wages, McCormick's, guys that are up and coming. I mean, holy cow.
And in fact, Alex and I were talking about this, waiting for the green and gold to get going here. Long pass downfield. Kane got him.
Beat Josh Hayes downfield that time, and Hayes, another guy that's going to factor into the corner situation, played as a true freshman out of Florida, one of the fastest players on the team. Let's take a look in the Nodak Insurance Company replay.
Really good job by Hotchkiss stepping up and throwing this downfield. And there's a one-on-one situation that you were talking about trying to beat. You know, the wideout beat a man situation against a kid Hayes, who's very good at being solo corner coverage.
Well thrown ball there by Hotchkiss. Let's go to Beth and Alex.
Hey guys, yeah, we want to go through our Farmers Union Insurance future crop of Bison. Taking a look at the offense here, Noah Gindorf and Josh Babbage, 2 tight ends that lead this list. We asked Coach Messingham who stood out to him, who made some of the best progress this season or this spring, and it was Gindorf and Babbage right off the bat.
Yeah, and then he actually mentioned Cordell Volson, a guy on the offensive line that we think is going to have a major role. I know the guys have already talked about him a little bit today, and of course those 2 backup quarterbacks that we continue to see who is going to be the guy that fills in for Easton Stick. So far, we're seeing those guys put on a little bit of a show. We've already seen Gindorf in the end zone there, getting a touchdown, and of course the 2 young quarterbacks trying to impress how they are improving along in this spring. So those are a couple of the guys that the coaching staff are very excited about as they get into fall camp here.
Yeah, Messingham mentioning that, you know, while they certainly aren't competing for a starting spot, they've made some great progress, and that's been vital for this Bison football team to be able to see, to know that they've got confidence in some depth in that position.
And it's certainly the depth is what they wanted to get out of this spring football practices. These 15 practices that they have is to build that depth and see what they have kind of waiting in case some of these starters, some of the guys that aren't playing right now, that have been starters and have played a lot of football for North Dakota State, you need to have that next man up. We always hear about that.
Yeah, right now you're seeing Jake Reinholtz take some kicks. Now, this is a Shanley product coming to the Bison football team, having an opportunity to compete with Cam Peterson and to show what he has. Cam talking about how helpful this has been for him this season, just to be able to bring a little pressure. He says when you know you're coming to practice and somebody else is showing up trying to take your job, it's helpful, and he's enjoying that competition.
Yeah, just like anybody else on this team that has to fight for their job every day in practice, be it at the quarterback spot or at the wide receiver spot, you need to fight for your playing time. Sometimes the specialists, because there are so few of them, they don't have to worry about losing their job, but it is a good thing to have competition. Competition makes you better, and Cam, for the first time in a few years, is experiencing some competition, and hopefully it makes him go up, because there has been some moments where we see shaky Cam, and I know the Bison don't want to see that. So if there's competition, maybe we don't see shaky Cam very much this season.
Let's go ahead and throw this back up to Brian and LT.
Beth, Alex, thanks so much. Special teams certainly going to be interesting throughout fall camp to see how everything shakes out. No question.
As we are into our final half hour of the Green Gold coverage show, I just want to remind everybody that coming up later this half hour, Alex's sit-down interview with Easton Stick in its entirety. They've talked about some real fun stuff, and we'll be happy to share that from the senior leader, the quarterback of this Bison team.
And they are actually doing some tackling out here with some of the younger players.
Yeah, and this is what Coach Kleiman said probably in about the last 10 minutes. There is actually going to be down to the ground. It'll be some of the young kids, a lot of the freshmen, redshirt freshmen, getting an opportunity to play full speed, full contact.
Hotchkiss airmails that pass, then a flag comes out. Tutsi on the coverage of Babich. Cordell Pimienta was the intended target.
Just to talk about quarterbacks, I did have a conversation with Coach Hedberg, and of course he's teaches that position. And about Hotchkiss, he said his ability to see the coverage is really good. He finds the open guy. He needs to work on his deep ball accuracy, Randy said. And he needs to bring his hip through his throw a little bit more. Right now, he's more of an arm thrower. He needs to get a little bit more power behind that throw. He's not quite as analytical as a thinker. He's more of a doer in that quarterback role.
Interestingly enough, Sanders and Hotchkiss are living together next year. Now, they're competing for the backup spot, but two really good friends. And the one thing we've seen out of that quarterback room really since, you know, how many years back, is a lot of mentoring and a lot of camaraderie in that room.
And just to follow up that on the flip side with Sanders, number 16, Hotchkiss is still in there. He said, he meaning Randy said, Sanders is not quite as fast. He takes more time to try to make the right read. They're trying to quicken him up just a little bit. They're trying to get his elbow up on his throwing motion. His elbow's dropping right now, and when you have your elbow drop, the ball has a tendency to sail a little bit. And the one thing Coach Hedberg said both quarterbacks have to work on, and these are the little minute details that get broken down by position coaches. He said their left foot for both guys has a tendency to flare out a little bit more. When you take your toe and point it not directly at the target but away from the target, you become a little less accurate. So those are the tiny details that gets broken down after practice through game film, trying to become more efficient as a passer.
People, I think, when they look, they say, well, quarterback just has to throw the ball. There's a lot of mechanics that goes into throwing the football, and coaches look at all those things. Randy's been doing it a long time in his career. Gofield, nice little run. Gained about 5 yards that time.
And another thing you have to think about, too, when you're a quarterback, or really anybody on the offensive side, but we've been talking about quarterbacks as we take a look at the replay there, the Nodak Insurance Company replay. These quarterbacks are taking multiple reps, but they are getting to learn against I'm going to call them the best defense in the FCS. So if you can have success against the #1 guys in practice, you know you're building yourself up for success against opposing teams if you get into that situation.
Big hit there. That's always cool to see from, one of the local state guys from Mandan, Ross Efforts.
Ross is a junior, Mandan, 5'11", 200 pounds, a little over 200 now. And look at how fired up the sideline got, especially the defensive side, when they got a chance to get a good hit on somebody, because again, they don't do much contact. Football practice has changed so much in that regard that you just don't go pounding each other anymore.
I talked to some of the offensive linemen. How much did you go live? And he said 1 day during spring ball. That's it. So we'll take about 10 days off, maybe 2 weeks. And then after that, last part of May, we'll get back to work. Time to start running with Coach Kramer. It's time to get back in the weight room and get ready for 2018.
Well, as long as you brought up the offensive line and how football has changed, the athleticism in the athletes that play offensive line now compared to 20 years ago, night and day. It is amazing how athletic those guys. If you would ever have an opportunity to watch some of the drills that these offensive linemen do to work on their agility, you know, rolling shoulder blocks and the moving, you know, big medicine balls and things like that. It's crazy how athletic these big guys are nowadays.
Matt Entz even calling out Cordell Volson, saying his arms are just so long you can't get around him. You can't even get to him because his arms are so long.
Some special teams work being done here by the Bison as they're, I'd say 5 minutes or so away from closing down this green gold effort here and finishing things up for the spring.
Wegner, that end over end punt. That's well done.
Beautiful.
Well, they should make the offense snap a play from there.
Nope, they're going to bring it out to the 30.
I talked to Chris Kleiman last Saturday, and I said, "You ready for spring ball to be done?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm ready." And he said, "We just don't have enough bodies to really do everything you want to do." But he said we were able to still double rep everything, and most of our guys still feel pretty good. We didn't really bang anybody up too bad. You know, some bumps and bruises, but for the most part, we're coming out of spring healthy. And he said that's what I'm most encouraged by.
Yeah, and when we were talking with Coach Entz, we said, what are some of your takeaways this spring? Healthy. He goes, we're healthy. We don't have as many people playing because of injury rehab, that type of thing. But he said we stayed healthy, and that was one of the big things.
Number 16, Noah Sanders is at quarterback.
So now Sanders will get an opportunity to run some offense against some live contact here.
Oh boy.
And he's going down.
Look out.
By number 33.
Fired up. Bryce Bennett, corner out of Coloma, Wisconsin, a walk-on senior, 5'8", 173. Watch your back, young man.
It's a good old-fashioned lookout block on that play. Look out, here comes the corner.
Loss of 9 on the play. So 2nd and 19 for the goal offense.
See Costner Ching, another walk-on out of South Dakota. Castlewood in at fullback. Leading the way that time, put on a nice block, and Cofield scampering down the sidelines. Pushed out of bounds after a nice run down to the 20.
Knocked out of bounds by number 52, Jackson.
Watch number 40, Costner Ching here.
Ching with the lead. Takes care of that. Lead upside, and the sack. You got back those 9 yards plus about 9 more. So just shy of a first down to the 3rd and short here for the offense. Nice to see Cofield healthy and running around.
Cofield has the first down across the 20-yard line. We'll step aside and take a Proceed game break and be back with more here at the Fargo Dome. Welcome back from the Proceed game break. Just wrapping up spring football here at North Dakota State. The Bison running their final practice, their 15th practice. And after this, take a couple of weeks off, get back in the weight room, and get ready for fall camp in the early part of August.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Brian, there really is not much for time off. These kids go year-round, even though they're only getting ready to play 11 games.
Let's go to Alex Egan.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Back here down on the north side of the Fargo Dome. Let's take a look at the future crop of Bison on the defensive side. We already spoke about some of the guys on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, we saw a play from Michael Tutsi, the safety, hoping to make a difference back there. Jalen Wimbush, another one of the guys that Matt Entz is really excited about, and he's a guy that's moving from corner back to safety where he originally played. Jackson Hankey, the linebacker, who you heard the guys talk about, a linebacker who's hoping to crack into the lineup here in the fall. James Hendricks, of course, the Swiss Army knife of this Bison football team. He can play it all. Safety, he can play linebacker, and even is one of the backup quarterbacks as well. Blake Williams and Caleb Butler, a couple guys as well on the defensive line that the coaches are very high on. Right now, Bison are being addressed by head coach Chris Kleiman. We hope to grab Bison head coach Chris Kleiman as he is trotting off the field here as spring football has officially come to a close. Let's go back up to Brian and LT, get their thoughts on what they saw today. Oh, just kidding. We will not go back up to them. We will have them come down and join us here as Coach Kleiman is addressing his team. As spring football is done. Good look at Robbie Grimsley there. Let's take a look at what is ahead for the Bison, the schedule for the 2018 season, and it's a pretty favorable one for the Bison to start. Home games is the theme right off the bat. The Bison will open up with Cal Poly on September 1st, and then a game against North Alabama, a team transitioning from Division II to Division I. Delaware will be homecoming there on September 22nd, and then Valley play gets underway September 29th with South Dakota State coming to the Fargo Dome. Again, 4 straight home games for the Bison to open up 2018 play. That's a pretty great schedule to have. A couple road trips in there with Northern Iowa and Western Illinois. Back home to host Illinois State. South Dakota, Youngstown State, Missouri State, and Southern Illinois rounded out. Let's go to Beth Hool standing by with Bison head coach Chris Kleiman. Beth?
Hey, thanks, Alex. All right, Coach, I know you weren't keeping score out there, but who are you most impressed with from today alone?
Well, today we'll find out when we look at a little bit of the film, but real proud of the guys. We did some great things before we came out here with a great youth clinic we had for about 250 of the local youth around here, and it's fun for our guys to give back to the community. And then we came out here, had a pretty cool ring ceremony, which doesn't happen at every place, and then we competed and battled for an hour, and that's what we wanted to do. Came out of it healthy, and now we move on to the next phase.
Really saw some big stuff from your defense once we were able to see some tackling out here. Fun to see. How important is it to open it up a little bit for those young guys, to see them play under the lights a little bit?
Yeah, biggest thing is for them to come out here late afternoon, early evening. It's typical time we would maybe play to get under the lights. We haven't gotten in the Fargo Dome a whole lot this spring. Hope to be able to get in here a little bit more in the fall, but it's just a taste of it for those guys. And we had a great crowd. Appreciate Bison Nation coming out and celebrating with the 2017 team, and looking forward to the 2018 season.
You were concentrated this spring on building some depth. Do you feel like you were able to do that? Was that accomplished?
Yeah, I think so, especially in the offense and defense lines. And that's where, that's our lifeblood of our program, is winning up front in the trenches. And some young offensive linemen really stepped up, some young defensive linemen. We have a lot of guys coming back, but we want to be able to play as many guys as we can on the defensive line and be able to get into a 7 or 8 man rotation on the O-line.
When you look at this group, I hate to make you pick one person, individual, one player who stood out this spring, but is there a position group as a whole that you think made the most growth in these 15 days?
It's kind of interesting you say that, the quarterbacks. 2 young freshmen that have no idea. They're wide-eyed, don't know what's going on. And from day 1 to day 15, really proud of how those guys responded to playing with fast people at the first group on offense and defense. And let's see how well that carries over into the summer and fall so that we can have a great backup for Easton.
Thanks so much for joining us, Coach. Congratulations on another successful spring. That'll do it for us with Coach Kleiman. We'll be back with more on this Green and Gold Spring Preview, sponsored by Gate City Bank.
Welcome back to the Bison Football Green and Gold Preview, sponsored by Gate City Bank. Earlier in the spring, I got a chance to catch up with Bison quarterback Easton Stick as he enters his senior season here with North Dakota State.
Let's go back to January. You're walking off the stage there at Toyota Stadium. How satisfying was it to be the starting quarterback of a national championship team? You win the MVP, but how satisfying given everything that you had gone through?
It was a really good feeling. It really was. And yeah, the way the year ended the year before, and you know, it was tough losing to those guys and you know, not finishing the way we wanted to that year and finishing for the seniors. And so to kind of, you know, speed up a year and go through the adversity that we went through injuries and different things on our team, and then be able to beat James Madison and a team that we felt was really, really good. And you know, there's no other team we wanted to play in that situation. And then to go out on top the way we did, especially for those seniors, those guys, you know, were incredibly influential in our program and personally on me. And so it was a great feeling going out on top with those guys.
Was there an extra sense of gratification knowing what happened 2 years previous when you did have to let Carson take the team back over?
It was just it was a different feeling. I wouldn't say it was any more gratifying, but it was different. You know, I knew going into the first national championship, or the second one that, you know, Carson was the quarterback for, I knew I wasn't playing. I knew I had to be ready as a backup, you know, had I been called in, but it wasn't my game. And so to be able to be the one going out there and be in the huddle, that was a cool feeling. And to look in the huddle and, you know, and see Coonert and to see Bryce Mesner and those seniors, Jeff and Connor. And so that was the cool part, is being in that huddle with that group.
You've never been the oldest quarterback in the room. You always had somebody older. Nicole Davis, Carson's been there. So how has your role evolved over the last couple years now that you are the oldest guy in the room and you've got guys looking up to you?
Yeah, it's come a long way. You know, I felt like I was the guy kind of getting poured into for the majority of my career. I had somebody that was, you know, giving me information and helping me along, and now, you know, I'm at the top of it. And so I got to, you know, reciprocate some of that and make sure I'm doing everything I can to help those young guys. And I'm just trying to be a sounding board for them and be someone that they can talk to. And if, you know, there's something I'm seeing, I'm trying to make sure that, you know, I verbalize it and communicate it the best way I can.
When Carson went down, you were a redshirt freshman with no experience. What made you confident enough to lead this team?
Honestly, it was the people around me. Coach Hedberg and Coach Paulsek did a really good job making sure, you know, throughout the week I knew what was going on and stuff wasn't going too fast for me. And then when we got to Saturday, there were so many good players around me, and the offensive line that we had that year was exceptional. And so I relied on those guys. You know, it was turn around and hand the ball off as many times as we can, and you know, if I have to make a play, try to run around and see if I can do it. But there were, you know, such good people on that team, and the defense that year got better every single week. And you know, I wasn't asked to do a whole lot, and that's a credit to those guys.
Now this year, there's two redshirt freshman quarterbacks with no experience. In case they do need to come in and play, what are you doing to instill that confidence?
You know, the biggest thing is reminding them that, you know, they're playing against the best defense in the country every single day. You're not going to see someone disguise coverages better than Robbie Grimsley. You know, Aaron Steidel, all these guys, you're just not going to find better players. And so understanding that you're being groomed with really good coaches, really good leadership from the upperclassmen, and then you're competing against the best every day. And so when you get to Saturday, you're going to be prepared, and you've got all the tools to handle it. And so now it's just about going out, relaxing, and trusting, you know, the process that has gotten you there, and just playing. And that's the advice I got, and that's the advice I'm trying to give to them.
Let's play the name game. I'm going to give you a name. I want you to tell me what each of these people means to you, okay?
All right.
We're going to start with an easy one. Chris Klieman.
Oh, man. Yeah, you'd think it'd be easy, but he's really special to me. He's put a lot of faith in me and trust in me, and has challenged me a ton throughout, you know, my 4 years here. And he means the world to me. He really does. And I couldn't ask for a better person, a better man to lead our group, to be a leader in our community. He's an unbelievable football coach, and I've learned so much about the game between the lines from Coach Klieman. But the type of person he is and the conversations I've had, you know, about his family and about life are so much greater to me, and he's really special to me.
Randy Hedberg.
Yeah. You know, there's not a better quarterback coach in the country as far as, you know, just being a calming presence for you when you walk in the huddle, when you come off the field, and I talk to him, you know, through the headset and stuff. He's just calm. He does a really good job of listening, which I think is really important because the quarterback position, it's a lot of, you're pulling the trigger. And so if you're not comfortable with something, it's probably something that shouldn't be in the game plan or something that should be called. And so he does a really good job of making sure the whole room's comfortable with what we're doing, and then does a really good job listening and just being someone that, I can go and talk to, and does an unbelievable job communicating with the whole room.
Carson Wentz.
Oh yeah, he's a brother, a mentor to me, one of my best friends, and just really grateful for how he treated me when I first got here. Made me feel at home. Helped me understand that this is a brotherhood and there's relationships beyond football in this, and so he's been an awesome friend for me for a long time and always will be.
The last one here, your dad.
Oh man, yeah. He's the best. Hey, I didn't expect that. Sorry.
We'll be sure to put the full Easton interview up on our websites, respectively. Thanks to Easton for taking the time to sit down with us there. It was great to catch up with him. That'll do it for spring football. We are done here at the Fargo Dome. Next up, Cal Poly, September 1st. That's when the Bison will be back on the field here at the Fargo Dome as they open up 2018, the defense of their national championship in 2017. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Green and Gold Spring Preview Show, sponsored by Kansas City Bank.